The UK goes to war, the Pope needs to be quiet, and a very helpful mouse. That and more in this instalment of News Headlines. Hi, my name's Katie. Welcome to my channel. This is where we discuss true crime, politics, and current affairs. And you're joining me for our almost weekly roundup of some of the news headlines that caught my eye. So stick around to hear my uneducated opinions, and please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. It's been a while. If you're a returning viewer, hi, how are you? I hope you're well. Apologies for the radio silence. There was some technical issues since the last time I uploaded. But today I found some stories I may have referenced in the opening bit. I woke up one day to find that we were at war. Yeah, the UK has sent troops into the Middle East. It sent troops to Yemen because a rebel group, I think they're called the Houthi. Apologies, I don't know if I'm saying that right. They are a group of rebels and they are attacking commercial ships in Yemen, i.e. the boats that have got our stuff on. So the UK won't interfere when people are being killed, but we will send troops when we can't get our cornflakes, for example. Oh, I'm starting off spicy today. But this one, Houthi ship attacks will continue until Gaza is no longer blockaded, according to the group leader. And Houthi have also threatened the US and its allies. The rebels have stepped up their attacks on commercial ships travelling through the Red Sea in a show of support for Hamas's attacks on Israel. They have used drone and anti-ship missiles to attack vessels, and in one instance used a helicopter to board and seize an Israeli-owned ship and its crew. BP has recently paused all shipments through the Red Sea out of safety concerns for their crews. BP, the oil giant. So everything's going to go up in price. Great! The Houthi rebels are Shia Islamists based in the west of Yemen. They strongly oppose the influence of Israel, the US, and other Western countries in the Middle East. They are backed by Iran and control much of Yemen's west coast. The shipping route is very significant, and it is a route between Asia and Europe and accounts for between 10 and 12% of global maritime trade. The US launched an operation to protect ships travelling through the Red Sea in the last week, with the UK, France, Bahrain, Canada and Norway among the nations set to join the international task force. Avoiding the Red Sea altogether could add up to 10 extra days to voyages, and the knock-on impact could be higher supermarket and petrol prices as a result of the congestion in supply chains. So we will send our troops in when our petrol and oil is affected. But we won't send troops in when people are being killed. Lord David Cameron, I still can't believe he's a lord, has said that it was necessary to act, and he defends the strike on Houthis. Britain could strike Houthi targets in Yemen again if the rebel group continues to attack ships in the Red Sea, according to David Cameron. He warned that the Iran-linked militants could force up prices in Britain if they're allowed to continue blocking the passage of container ships. The US struck another site in Yemen after the Houthis vowed revenge for the bombing raid carried out by the Americans and the RAF a day earlier. Cameron told ITV News, "What was necessary was to send a very clear message to the Houthis that these attacks are illegal and unacceptable, and what we have done is use military action as a last resort. We issued warning after warning, including warnings via the United Nations Security Council and warnings in Parliament, continued to act in many ways, and they continued to act. Most of these attacks on ships got worse. It was a joke, he added. So yeah, we'll send troops in for supply ships, but not for, people dying. And in regards to the attacks, the Houthi attacks are illegal. Yeah. I don't think a rebel group, possibly a terrorist group, maybe, I don't know, will care about whether something is legal or not. And also, I'm sorry, the UK needs to keep their mouth shut about illegal acts, because anyone remember Afghanistan? That was an illegal war. Just saying. That was the first one. I'm going to stop talking about it because it makes me angry. This was about 4 hours ago. Now, if you don't know who the Gilgo Beach serial killer is, yeah, it's a massive story over in the US. But today, the Gilgo Beach serial killing suspect returned to court as prosecutors plan a major announcement. Prosecutors say they are planning a major announcement in their investigation of the suspected serial murders of a group of women whose bodies were found strewn along a coastal highway near Long Island's Gilgo Beach. The prime suspect in some of those killings, Rex Heuermann, is due in court on Tuesday, months after he was charged in the deaths of 3 women. Prosecutors had also said they were working to charge him with a 4th slaying. Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney is set to make the announcement after a court hearing in the case in Riverhead, New York. Heuermann was charged in July 2023 with the killings of Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, whose bodies were found buried along a remote beach parkway. Prosecutors said Heuermann is also suspected in the death of Maureen Brainard Barnes, who vanished in 2007. He has pleaded not guilty and has been held without bail at Suffolk County Jail in Riverhead. The arrest of Heuermann, a 60-year-old architect, came more than a decade after police searching for a missing woman found 10 sets of human remains hidden in the thick underbrush near Gilgo Beach. Heuermann was identified as a suspect in 2002 when detectives linked him to a pickup truck that witness reported seeing when one of the victims disappeared. The following year, detectives tailing Heuermann recovered his DNA from pizza crust in a box that he discarded in a Manhattan trash can and matched it to a hair found on a restraint used in the killings, according to authorities. So the prosecutors in the Gilgo Beach case are planning a huge announcement, and it's said that they are going to announce that they're going to charge him with a 4th murder. If this is true, this dude ain't never going to get out of prison. It's such a sad story, the Gilgo Beach one. I haven't followed it closely because if you are a regular viewer of mine, you know I am currently obsessed with the Corey Richards case. But the Gilgo Beach one, so sad. All these women, vulnerable women, and he took advantage of their vulnerability and killed them, allegedly. Maybe. We'll see when it goes to trial. But it's just so sad. And sticking with US crime, this is insane. The Alabama Supreme Court has rejected the appeal of a death row inmate who is scheduled to be the first person put to death with nitrogen gas and had argued that he shouldn't face execution after a previous attempt at a lethal injection failed. Justices, without dissent, rejected arguments that a second attempt to execute Kenneth Eugene Smith would violate federal and state bans on cruel and unusual punishment. A circuit judge had previously rejected Smith's argument, and the decision was upheld by a state appellate court. State justices declined to review the decision. The Court of Criminal Appeals concluded that a second execution attempt under such circumstances would not constitute cruel and unusual punishment in violation of the United States and Alabama constitutions. a conclusion that is not contradicted by the Supreme Court's ruling, according to Justice Greg Cook. Oh. Smith, age 58, is scheduled to be executed on January the 25th, 2024, by nitrogen hypoxia, a method of execution authorized in 3 states, but that has never been used to put an inmate to death. Under the method, a mask is placed over the inmate's nose and mouth, and breathable air is replaced with nitrogen, causing death from lack of oxygen. The Alabama Department of Corrections attempted to give Smith a lethal injection in 2022. Smith was strapped to the gurney in the execution chamber, but the execution was called off when execution team members couldn't connect the second of 2 required intravenous lines to Smith's veins. The state case was one of 2 ongoing appeals by Smith. A federal judge in a separate case on Wednesday ruled that the new method did not violate the ban on cruel and unusual punishment and rejected Smith's request for a preliminary injunction to block the execution. The 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals next week will hear oral arguments in Smith's appeal of that decision. Smith was one of 2 men convicted of the 1988 murder for hire slaying of a preacher's wife. Prosecutors said Smith and the other man were each paid $1,000 to kill Elizabeth Sennett. Now, I am no medical person, but I would assume being put to death with nitrogen gas would come under cruel and unusual punishment. It's definitely unusual. They've said so themselves that it's hardly been used since it was legalized, therefore it is unusual. I don't know if that's a genuine legal argument or not. But damn, Alabama do not play. That's... Oh, well, don't get me wrong, whilst he is a convicted murderer, I don't know the case. Can't comment as to whether he is guilty or not, but they found him guilty. And their punishments include the death penalty. But damn, America. Alabama don't play. So that's another one. But the next story, the UN is concerned over Taliban arrests of Afghan women and girls for alleged Islamic headscarf violations. I'm going to have opinions. Warning. So, the United Nations mission in Afghanistan said it was deeply concerned by recent arbitrary arrests and detentions by the Taliban government of women and girls for allegedly violating dress codes regarding the Islamic headscarf or hijab. The mission said it was looking into claims of ill treatment of women and extortion in exchange for their release, and warned that physical violence and detentions were demeaning and dangerous. The Taliban said last week that female police officers have been taking women into custody for wearing bad hijab. It was the first official confirmation of a crackdown on women who don't follow the dress code imposed by the Taliban since they returned to power in 2021. A crackdown that has echoed events in neighbouring Iran, which saw months of protests in 2022 and has long enforced the mandatory hijab. The UN statement said hijab enforcing campaigns in the capital, Kabul, and the province of Daikundi have been ongoing since January the 1st, with large numbers of women and girls warned and detained. The mission also said women from religious and ethnic minorities appear to be disproportionately impacted. Enforcement measures involving physical violence are especially demeaning and dangerous for Afghan women and girls, said the UN Special Envoy and head of the mission. Detentions carry an enormous stigma that put Afghan women at even greater risk. They also destroy public trust. The Taliban chief spokesman said the UN preoccupation with Afghan women was unwarranted and dismissed the concerns. Afghan women wear hijab of their own accord, he said on Twitter. They don't need to be forced. The Vice and Virtue Ministry hasn't forced anyone to wear the hijab either. In May 2022, The Taliban issued a decree calling for women to only show their eyes and recommending they wear the head-to-toe burqa, similar to restrictions during their previous rule of the country between 1996 and 2001. A spokesman for the Vice and Virtue Ministry rejected reports that women and girls were being arrested or beaten for wearing bad hijab and called it propaganda from the foreign media. Okay, opinions. So, the Taliban have stopped women and girls getting an education. They have stopped them leaving the house unless absolutely necessary. They have stopped them working unless absolutely necessary. They are detaining women in prison who are at risk of domestic violence rather than detaining the perpetrator of said domestic violence. They are putting them in prison for their own safety. I have covered that story previously. And this, if you don't wear the hijab correctly, they shouldn't have to wear it at all. If they want to wear it, yeah, sure, knock stuff out. But no, this is not okay. I don't know why the Taliban is scared of women. What's the matter? Can't you concentrate on your daily life if you see a woman's hair? This must be driving you mad right now. You must not be able to do anything at all because, everything is on show. Why are you so scared of women dressing as they like and getting an education? Is it because they will then see through your bullshit? Is that what it is? I'm going to move on from this topic. This one always makes me angry. And this one, again, warning, I have opinions. But, so the Pope, Mr. Pope, calls for a universal ban on surrogate parenting, calling it deplorable. On January the 8th, 2024, Pope Francis called for a global ban on parenting via surrogacy, calling the practice deplorable and a grave violation of the dignity of the woman and the child. The Pope's remarks are likely to antagonise pro-LGBT plus groups, since surrogacy is often used by gay or lesbian partners who want to have children, and follow his landmark decision to allow priests to bless same-sex couples. Quote, I deem deplorable the practice of so-called surrogate motherhood, which represents a grave violation of the dignity of the woman and the child, based on the exploitation of situations of the mother's material needs, he said. Consequently, I express my hope for an effort by the international community to prohibit this practice universally. Pope Francis, age 87, made his comments in a 45-minute address to Vatican-accredited diplomats, which is sometimes called his State of the World speech. There are few statistics on the number of babies born through surrogacy. Due to ethical concerns, the practice is illegal in many countries around the world, as well as in some US states. Critics of the practice warn of the potential for a poverty bias against women who become surrogate mothers due to financial need. But interest continues to grow as more women opt to postpone pregnancy until later in life when fertility wanes, and as more same-sex couples look for ways to start families when they can't conceive on their own. In Italy, the country that surrounds the Vatican, surrogacy is illegal, and the Prime Minister's right-wing coalition is pushing through Parliament a law that would extend the existing ban to punish couples who go abroad to carry out the procedure. The Pope, who leads the world's more than 1.35 billion Catholics, also reaffirmed the Vatican's condemnation of gender theory, which suggests that gender is more complex and fluid than the binary categories of male and female, and depends on more than visible sex characteristics. He called the theory extremely dangerous, since it cancels differences in its claim to make everyone equal. Okay, I have opinions. First of all, Mr. Pope, please keep your opinions out of my uterus. Many thanks. And I don't know why, but this one line where it talks about how it's going to antagonise pro-LGBT plus groups. Yeah, but what about women? straight women, straight couples, they also use surrogates. But I understand why they've included that little section, because that's recently allowed priests to bless same-sex couples. So I get it, but it kind of knocked me a little bit, because I was just like, hang on, it's not just LGBT plus groups that use surrogates. It is also straight single women and straight couples. Just a little thing, but I understand why they did it. And this is where I need a beard. Surrogacy should not be for profit, in my opinion. I'm not sure if it's in this country or elsewhere, but surrogacy is not for profit. The pregnant mother person, the surrogate mother, I don't know what you'd call the person who is pregnant with the surrogate baby. Anywho, the pregnant person, the pregnant woman, is reimbursed for her expenses. So any fertility treatment she has to go through, any train journeys to various clinics, time off work, there is compensation. She gets compensation, but there's not for profit. Now, I personally see nothing wrong with that if it is done ethically. If everyone involved, the pregnant mother and the future parents, everyone involved needs to have therapy first. Everyone needs to understand the implications of what they are about to enter into. And if they do, then yeah, they should be able to go ahead with surrogacy. Why not? My uterus, my problem. Popey boy needs to keep his nose out. Surrogacy does need to be controlled. It should be not for profit. Of course it should. Again, none of your business what I do with my uterus. And then this thing about the right wing coalition that's ruling right now in Italy. They're going to punish couples who go abroad to get surrogacy. Sod off. I'm sorry. I hate when religion influences law. And it's not only influencing, because of course every country is based on a religion, maybe from many centuries ago, and their laws may be based on that religion loosely. But when you are using your religion to control people legally, no, that is not okay, Italy. I don't care who I offend. Live and let live, support people, make sure they're making the correct decision, make sure they have therapy, make sure they are loved and cared for. And yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out, as long as it's not for profit. And in regards to the Vatican whinging about gender theory, I have opinions about gender theory. Gender is fluid. Gender has been fluid for centuries. Okay, male Vikings would go and do female stuff. Female Vikings would go and do male stuff. Gender is fluid. Sex is not. Sex is binary. You are either male or female. There's a very tiny small percentage of people that are born with both or neither. I don't know the science. Don't ask me. But gender, it can be whatever you want it to be. And the archaeology proves that. I've done a previous video, the Burqa warrior woman. Go watch it, she's amazing. But again, the church interfering, go away. Just go away. The church clearly has a problem with women anyway, because where are the female priests and whatever they're called? Clearly, I'm not religious. And we're gonna end on. This is so cute. This story. So a mouse has been filmed tidying a man's shed every night. There's a photographer who noticed that his items were mysteriously moving around, and he discovered a little mouse was organising his workbench. I will leave a link so you can go watch the video. It's so cute. It's very short. But a mouse has been filmed secretly tidying up a man's shed almost every night for 2 months. Wildlife photographer Rodney Holbrook noticed that objects he left out of place were being mysteriously put back where they belonged overnight. Holbrook from Wales set up a night vision camera on his workbench to find out what was happening, and captured footage reminiscent of the 2007 animated movie Ratatouille, where a rodent secretly cooks at a restaurant. Holbrook told the BBC that it's been going on for months. He calls him the Welsh tidy mouse. At first, he noticed that some food that he was putting out for the birds was ending up in some old shoes that he was storing in the shed, so he set up a camera. And night vision footage showed the seemingly conscientious rodent gathering clothes pegs, corks, nuts and bolts and placing them in a tray on Holbrook's workbench. Holbrook even experimented with leaving out different objects to see if the mouse could lift them, but the creature was undeterred and was even seen carrying cable ties to the pot. He moved all sorts of things into the box, bits of plastic, nuts and bolts. 99 times out of 100, the mouse will tidy up throughout the night. Oh, it's just so cute. All the crap that we just talked about, all the misery, and then there's stuff like this that's so cute. It's always nice to end on something like that. So if you've enjoyed this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. It is free. If you're a returning viewer, clearly you like my content, so go ahead and subscribe. And yeah, I want to apologise for the lack of me over the past few weeks. Technical issues, long story, we may have figured it out. And if you are a fan of true crime, make sure you subscribe, because I am covering the case of Corey Richins, who is a grief author who allegedly fatally poisoned her husband. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, come follow me on all the socials. I recently set up a Facebook page if you're interested, so come follow me on that, and I'll see you there. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.